What is up, everybody? I hope you guys are all having a great day. I did want to mention that during the last video, I was receiving lots of comments about chugging water during the video. Well, I would have loved to have had some Gatorade or something that I could have pounded down my gullet today, but unfortunately I do not. So I'm hoping that the voice without the sound of chugging water resonates a lot of value with you all. I wanted to move forward, though. As always, we have a gigantic day within news in this space, and I wanted to also present to you guys kind of worst-case scenario aspects within this market. First and foremost, we have news coming out today that Twitter has accepted Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition offer for the platform. Now, this is at $54.20 a share, is what Elon Musk had gotten the Twitter board to agree to for the acquisition, valuing the social media platform at $44 billion. Right now, it is $54.20 a share is what Elon acquired the platform are, and publicly trading, Twitter is currently at $51.70, so still a few dollars left, right? And the one thing that was interesting to me, even thinking about this, is how much time we all pretty much spend on Twitter at this point in time. And I think that a $44 billion valuation is still a bit small, and I'm sure that's probably what Elon is thinking as well. I'm not going to get into the political aspects within this. I mean, you guys can make your own assumptions. You guys all have your own beliefs. Everybody listening to this channel. What I will say is that I value everybody's opinion. I value everybody's beliefs. I'm a huge advocate for free speech done in the right way, and Twitter, in my opinion, needs an overhaul as far as validation for real content creators versus bots and scammers. When I post on Twitter, I immediately get like 10 fucking bots that will comment underneath my posts. A lot of the times, I am like shadow blocked from these individuals where I can't even go in and manually block them. I would like to see a lot of different initiatives within Twitter. I know that Elon had stated $3 or $4 a month for verification. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I think that things can potentially be done in a better way. Interestingly enough, Elon is obviously an advocate for Bitcoin and things like Doge. Doge was up like 22% today, but I wanted to get into Bitcoin. Prior to this news, I've been looking at this and driving this into the ground for months upon months upon months. I am looking at the yellow and the blue line here. The yellow is the 21 EMA on the weekly. The blue is the 50 EMA on the weekly. Earlier today, prior to the announcement, we actually did have a cross, but it was a preliminary cross. Obviously, this week, these are all weekly candles. The weekly candles do not close until Sunday. We do not have a cross now. But what I did want to say is what I've potentially been looking at if we do have a cross. You can see that this has not officially crossed yet. You can actually see the candle, the weekly candle here. Prior to this, I think we were down around 38K or something like that. For Bitcoin, we're up at about $40,175 right now. What happens if we do have a cross? Well, nobody knows for sure, right? History doesn't always necessarily repeat itself, but sometimes there's synergy in history where it rhymes, or it at least mimics what has happened in the past with present action. We are, in my opinion, unless we have some sort of drastic price action to the upside, going to have a cross. And by drastic in the interim, I mean probably that 46K range, 44K, 46K, and really a little bit extrapolated out. I really want to see Bitcoin get above that 53K range. And I'm talking about Bitcoin. I don't hold Bitcoin. Why am I talking about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin essentially reciprocates what the rest of the market is potentially going to do because, number one, we don't have regulatory clarity yet. Number two, the utility assets haven't really done what they're supposed to do yet at the enterprise level, and that is because of the lack of regulatory clarity. At some point, my opinion is that Bitcoin gets usurped, and by usurped, I mean passed. I think Ethereum might do that first, but I think there's lots of assets that are potentially going to do that in the future. It's not saying Bitcoin goes anywhere. It's just saying what I'm potentially looking at. So what happens if we have this quote-unquote cross, right, and it's bearish? Well, let me try to pull this up here. I just did a video and now it canceled out. October 2014, we had a cross, okay? The 21 EMA crossed below the 50 EMA on the weekly. When we had that cross, it was 84 days approximately until the bottom. Bitcoin went down 52% at the end of that 84 days in capitulation. In 2014, from the beginning of that cross where we had the bearish cross of 21 below the 50 to the point where we had the 21 get back above the 50. Keep in mind here, you can see these candles. Price action is going to dictate that, so it's a lagging indicator as far as that's concerned. It was 413 days, but minus 52% at 84 days. Well, if we look at 2018 in September, we had another cross. What do you know? About 84 days and a 51% correction in Bitcoin to the downside. Now, interestingly enough, in 2018, it only took us 252 days to have that bullish cross to the upside. Once again, we see price action leading that cross. So the cross didn't happen first, price action happened first. But looking at these bearish aspects, the crosses in 2014 and 2018 happened first. Then we kind of saw consolidation, sideways movement, and then a crash, right? The one outlier within this is 2020. 2020, all markets capitulated. Interestingly enough, price action, again, well, not interesting, but it just happened. Price action preceded the actual cross where the 21 crossed below the 50. But much quicker recovery that time. I think it was 49 days before we had the cross back to the upside. We're about to have another one. So are we going to be 2020? Are we going to be 2014 and 2018? It will be interesting to watch. Is Elon Musk acquiring Twitter going to make some sort of a miraculous recovery within this market? I don't know. But as with anything in this market, I would recommend not just looking at one aspect or one indicator. I choose to look at Bitcoin because that is the simplest way for me to, on a macro scale, right now with where the market is at, look at where the market is potentially going, in my opinion. Again, not financial advice, just my opinion. Bitcoin is very simple to look at. I can look at the history of Bitcoin, see what it's done, and then I can look at the history of the total market cap of all crypto, or all crypto excluding Bitcoin, and see what it's done based on what Bitcoin has done. But use multiple indicators. One thing that I like to look at also in tandem with this website is great, lookintobitcoin.com. If you haven't been there, tons of different simple charts to look at. It's not even really charts, they're more so just metrics. This 200-week moving average, and certainly, one thing that's interesting to me is that we haven't seen, in my opinion, from Bitcoin standpoint, a blow off top where we have parabolic price rises to the upside. But one thing that we do know is that during bear markets, historically, Bitcoin likes to touch base on the 200-week moving average. Right now, 200-week moving average is sitting around $21,104. If I were to take a measured move with what I talked about previously at that minus 51%, let's just say 51% because it was negative 52%, negative 51, and negative 51. From where we're at right now, it would put us right around that $18,000 range, which I don't think is necessarily realistic. I think that if Bitcoin continues to go down, we're probably going to go to that 28K range. If we hold 28K as support, great. If we break 28K, there's two plausible scenarios, and both of my scenarios are going to be wrong, because Bitcoin is never going to do exactly what anybody says it's going to do unless you luck out. I could see maybe some price action right at that 200-week moving average, or potentially even down to $14,000, which, I'm talking about these bearish scenarios because every price movement in this space, whether it be to the upside or the downside, presents a mass amount of opportunity. If we have capitulation and prices tank, if people are freaking out, which a lot of people will, they're looking at it the wrong way. They might have overinvested, et cetera, et cetera. If price action dumps, I will be looking at it as a massive opportunity. And it's an opportunity where you don't have to gamble or catch the next wave. It's an opportunity where you can potentially bank into utility, wait it out a year, year and a half, 2 years, and be able to make potentially the best investment decisions of your entire life. Again, that is not financial advice. It's just the facts. I mean, that's similar to buying Cardano and ADA at like under 2 cents in March of 2020. These people were banking on utility. They decided to make moves, and you can look at what Cardano and ADA did since then, and that's just one example. Now, that is also not to say, I guess, as a caveat that I'm, leading into this. XRP, SEC versus Ripple legal battle pushed to 2023. For me, I really don't care. And I understand everybody wants XRP to go to, $10, $20, $30, whatever value they have in their heads that XRP needs to get to justify their investment decisions is really what it comes down to. For me, I'm an XRP holder because I believe in the utility of XRP as a neutral bridge asset. I believe in the utility of the XRP ledger. I think that as more mechanisms come into the XRP ledger, as more community building, I talked about on XRP, I'll be talking about Expector here in a second. As more of these mechanisms come in, it's going to grow out the ecosystem in a way that, it's not just going to be looked at from a payments and settlement standpoint. The ledger is not going to just be looked at from an agnostic value standpoint. But once you start sprinkling in community initiatives into this thing, you're talking kind of what we've seen across Solana, and especially like even Ethereum is a great example. Ethereum virtual machine capability is going to be coming to the XRPL. There's all sorts of different things I'm excited for, which alludes me to the reason why regardless bear or bull, I hold certain assets, and I will accumulate if I feel like they're undervalued. But I don't believe we've seen the overvalued aspects yet within some of these assets, like XRP, potentially HBAR, potentially Quant, potentially Zinfin, potentially Algorand. These are assets that are very much so going to be tied into the system, in my opinion. You can look at Zinfin from the trade finance standpoint. You can look at HBAR and Hedera Hashgraph from the technology about regarding future proofing and quantum proof and enterprise grade usage. You can look at XRP from the neutral bridge aspect, transmitting value in an agnostic way across the board. You can look at Algorand from a CBDC perspective. Run the gambit, right? We don't have regulatory clarity yet, so we are not able to see what these utility or supposed utility assets are going to do under regulatory clarity and guidance. And I think, in my opinion, again, not financial advice, that once these utility assets have clarity and are able to run, and these enterprises have been building out these proof of concepts for years, we have not even scratched the surface. $2.6 trillion valuation for crypto, if that was potentially the top during this cycle, is a fucking drop in the pan. I want to move forward real quick here. Expector. I actually am an advisor within Expector. I am a huge fan of Sadaf. I'm a huge fan of Panos. Both of them have... Panos has been in the XRP community for a long time. Sadaf has been in the XRP community for a year and a half now. And Dirk, who is actually the head of Expector, reached out to me. He's been in the Xpunks community. He knows the guys from OnXRP fairly well. They're building out an ecosystem as well. This is one of the examples that I talked about. Their IDO is today. Obviously, from an advisory standpoint, I'm not going to tell you to buy something, but what I am going to do is tell you that there's a lot of ecosystems being built out. I certainly recommend doing your due diligence and looking into what the ecosystem that Expector is building out is, and it's kind of running the gambit here. And I've talked to Dirk multiple times. I've talked to Sadaf, obviously, multiple times. They've got really interesting use cases being built out, some of which that haven't been announced yet are already built out within the white paper. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm certainly hoping that Expector does well. And if you guys want to check out Expector, I certainly recommend you do so. But again, with anything else, as with anything in this space, do your own due diligence. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure your risk tolerance is where it needs to be. It's kind of it's crypto 101, right? All I'm going to do is recommend to look into something, and if you find it interesting, you find it interesting. Apex is another example. I'm not an affiliate with Apex, but I actually do have an AMA. I was reached out to by Mando from the Hedera Hashgraph community. Oh my, this was probably a month and a half ago, and I've been paying attention to Apex. I actually have an AMA with Tommy, who is a CEO tomorrow. And I even told him, I'm like, dude, look, I'm going to be asking you some extremely heavy-hitting questions about sustainability. We've seen these DAAS protocols kind of have their initial launches. They take off, they go parabolic, and then the rewards become unsustainable and they crash. I've got a lot of questions for Tommy. If you guys have questions in these DAAS protocols, I certainly recommend that you guys put them down in the comments of this video. I'm going to try to get as many as I can. I will say... in talking to him and some of these announcements, I believe that they've alluded to 5 announcements from a partnership aspect, and they've announced 2. Fort Knoxtra is interesting to me because it's essentially like a beneficiary thing upon death or inactivity of wallet. Your loved one or spouse or whoever your potential benefactor may be within your will or whatever you put into this platform would have access. The other thing is insurance, and they did allude to a top 40 top 40 by market cap crypto project that is about 99% nailed down from a partnership aspect. So excited to get into this. But I told this dude, like, I'm not going to I'm not you guys know that I'm not historically a shiller with anything. I'm going to ask hard-hitting questions and talk about sustainability and all the things that I think that all of us are interested in, especially given kind of the state of the market right now. I think that's really, really important. We'll see where that goes, though. I'm excited to talk to Tommy. The dude's a great guy. I talked to him for like 30 minutes yesterday. He's on board 100%. He's like, dude, like, I don't want formatted or phrased questions. If you have them from the community, great, but I just want to talk, and let's talk about sustainability and go from there. Regardless of what the market is doing right now, I wanted to leave you guys with just two things. Regardless of price, regardless of anything, when you have 94% of surveyed executives talking about blockchain project plans from the Fortune 500, it should give everybody a little bit of a warm and fuzzy, right? We know where this space goes, but we also know that oversaturation has been in this market for a little bit of time now. But it doesn't mean that innovation and building stops. And when you've got 94% of the Fortune 500 surveyed executives talking about blockchain project plans, it just eludes me to believe that the other 6% are probably completely screwed, or will 100% assimilate and start, integrating into blockchain and DLT. And one of the things that's interesting to me is that a lot of the times we hear, well, blockchain's a separation from digital assets. Well, that'd be like me saying, I've said this before, I think, I'm going to take my car and drive across country, but I'm never going to fill up the gas tank. Well, it's just not going to happen, right? It's the fuel. Digital assets are the fuel of Web3. Digital assets are the fuel of the Internet of Value, 100%. Blockchain platforms, distributed ledger technology protocols, those are kind of the ecosystems in which that fuel needs to exist. But make no mistake about it, digital assets are the future, and it'll be really interesting to see how all this pans out, especially when you've got the European Central Bank consistently over time changing its rhetoric. This is just today. Globally coordinated efforts are needed to bring crypto assets into a regulatory framework, says Executive Board member Fabio Panetta at Columbia. We must not repeat past mistakes by waiting for the bubble to burst before acting. What's really interesting with me is this quote right here. Central banks must engage even more with digital innovation by upgrading wholesale financial infrastructures, operating fast retail payment systems, and preparing for the issuance of central bank digital currencies. What a rhetoric shift, right? 4 or 5 years ago, all it was about risk. Digital assets are a risk to the traditional financial system. Now you fast forward maybe a year or two ago. These things were happening before that, but a year or two ago with public things coming out where all these institutions are saying, we're doing proof of concepts, in case we might do this in the future. And now they are literally saying, preparing for the issuance of central bank digital currencies. And not all of those CBDCs, my friends, are going to interoperate. There's going to be low liquidity corridors that need bridged, maybe potentially a use case within those exotic corridors for a neutral asset like XRP or others. It will be very interesting to me how this shakes out. And the rhetoric will consistently and continuously change until they start marketing it to the every man and every woman in every country that we live in the entire world. And by that time, everybody, it will be too late. Well, maybe not too late because we're all going to be dealing with it anyways, but the money is mostly made in these bearish scenarios where you're able to potentially get into these utility-driven assets when it's the hardest to do so because prices are tanking. Everybody's saying this market is dead. If you get into utility during those times and you're willing to sit for a year and a half, 2 years, it's a much better shot than buying fucking dog coin names, whenever everything's going parabolic. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's going to be really interesting to see how everything shakes out. And yeah, we'll go from there. Last but not least, I would think with like the Twitter news, like, I don't know, maybe we do see some sort of reciprocation from price action with Bitcoin, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Again, not financial advice. I just want everybody to hopefully be prepared for either scenario. If prices go down, I look at it as an opportunity. If prices go up with assets of utility, I'm still pretty much willing to just wait it out and hold because I don't think we've seen anything yet from the utility-driven assets. So, all right, I will talk to you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.